Hello to all you beautiful people of the internet. My name is Neviriah, and in this video I'd like to talk to you about the 6 tank specs of World of Warcraft and how they feel in the upcoming expansion Shadowlands. Before we get into it, however, I want you to know that I do stream on Twitch 3 times a week, so if you're into that, maybe check out the link in the description down below. We're not going to talk about everything in depth, we're simply going to compare the classes and in their core and really just do a raw comparison of the basics. Also, before picking a tank and maybe telling yourself of what you really want out of it, make a list and see what it is that you desire. You know, do you want to have fast dungeon queues? Do you just want to have more responsibility? Maybe you're into min-maxing? Are you key pushing? Do you just want to change it up for some fun? Are you into class fantasy? Do you want to be able to shapeshift, become a demon, wear a shield? Do you want to be able to heal or DPS as your off-spec, or maybe none of it? And then one of the biggest parts is as well, do you care about having a lot of utility, and do you mind having a lot of keybinds on your buttons? And last but not least, do you care about transmogs? Because I think we can all agree that plate is just looking much better than most other armor in the game, and to this day I'm not sure why there is no male wearing tank class. I'm not sure. Why do we only have leather and plate? I don't know. Starting with the warrior, biggest changes for warrior is that their strongest talents now all share the same row. And that really hit warrior hard. In general, you can say that warrior is a very button spammy class, like you smash your boobs onto the keyboard and you're good to go. That did change a little bit, however, right now, because the haste is simply not there. And it makes it feel very clunky. It also means you don't have as much uptime on avatar, and then you cannot get as many thunderclaps off, you lose aggro much easier. Generally, the rage generation is impacting the mitigation as well, because you don't have shield blocks and you don't have ignore pain up all the time. So right now warrior is suffering a little. However, I do think that with scaling and better gear later on, they might find a comeback. So I wouldn't be too worried about it, although it is true that they're in the worst spot of all the tanks right now. And then also keep in mind, they are the only spec that doesn't have any self-sufficient healing, basically, which you do feel it. If you don't have a good heal, you can feel it much more than as a blood DK, for example. One more important thing I want you to note is that you have 2 charges now. When first you only had intervene and it worked on hostiles as well, now it only works on friendlies and you have 1 charge, and instead you got the normal warrior charge on top of that, so more key bindings. Really nice for Mythic Plus, though eventually could be the Mass Spell Reflect ability, and also you have great legendaries working all together. So it's really fun, but we will have to see how warrior feels with better gear in the future. Right now it's the worst of all the tanks, simply because it's very clunky and the mitigation is really suffering from it as well. Guardian Druid, on the other hand, was buffed. You have a lot of utility spaceline now. You got Cyclone and Vortex. On top of that, you have Stampeding Roar. And, you know, you have very nice legendaries as well. The only problem I see here, and a lot of other people talk about that as well, is Frenzied Regeneration, which is basically garbage, if I may be so frank. Compared to other tanks who have abilities they can use for defensive situations without using any cooldowns, Druids really suffer here, because you do have Iron Fur and you can stack it 8 times, but it only gives armor, and all your other abilities that you can use for defensive and healing are gated behind cooldowns, and it doesn't feel as rewarding. As a warrior you have Ignore Pain, as a DK you have Death Strike, as a Demon Hunter you have Soul Cleave, and just Druids don't have anything like that. They also don't have any active magic damage mitigation. And unfortunately, I don't think that the utility that they have makes up enough for it, enough to, you know, counteract the negatives of low damage and low self-sustain. That also adds up to not being able to generate threat really good. So in AoE situations, especially at the beginning of an expansion, you do have a little bit more problems with holding aggro, and it's the same for Demon Hunter, but we will get into it. The good stuff, however, is you have Vortex, you have Stampeding Roar, you have a Battle Rest, which is insane. Okay, can I just say it like this? Because not a lot of classes will have it anymore. And you are a bear, so I don't know what more you want. Moving on to Vengeance, Demon Hunter. It's quite similar to what it was at the start of BFA. It feels good, it feels fun, you know, you do very nice amount of damage, but you are in a dangerous situation because chances are it will be okay and do quite fine at the beginning of the expansion, and then later on it will maybe fall off. That's the big worry I have here. And then on top of that, Spirit Bomb should just simply be baseline. The only other ability that you have to use Souls with is Soul Cleave. And unless you talent into Spirit Bomb, that's it. And you regenerate much more souls than you can possibly consume, so Spirit Bomb should be baseline. You shouldn't have to talent into something that is just... It doesn't make sense, okay? It just does not make sense. That's the only thing I have to say here. In general, they feel like worse Death Knights, I'm sorry to say it, but they have their self-healing is less smooth. But obviously it's still a lot of fun, and AoE threat for Demon Hunters is a little bit underwhelming, which is why it's causing a bit of a problem with threat generation in Mythic Plus, and has always been like this, unfortunately. That's nothing new, but it just is very much feelable again at the beginning of an expansion. Every week is Skittish Week for Vengeance Demon Hunter. And that's just it. That's all you need to know. The good stuff though is you have less than 10 buttons in total. Fell Devastation feels great. It has a 1 minute cooldown, however, it was nerfed. Still, it's nice to give you control over when you wanna change into Metamorphosis. And the reason for that is because Gluttony has been removed and has been replaced with Demonic. So that's just very nice. And then on top of all of that, Demon Spikes has been buffed, and that's the ability you use the most as your damage mitigation on a Vengeance Demon Hunter, so that's great. You also bring the 5% magic bonus damage debuff, buff, however you want to call it. And you have Sigils, which is nice utility. And Illidan is your daddy, so that's great. Before we move on, I want to tell you that the reason I put those 3 tanks first, or not first directly, but we talked about them first, is because those 3 classes, Druid, Warrior, and Demon Hunter, have been impacted by the loss of corruption and essences more than Blood DK, Brewmaster, and Prot Paladin. Simply because those 3 classes need borrowed power more than the next 3. So I just want you to know that. Moving on to Paladin. A friend of mine said to me, I say Paladin, and it's not the way you say it. So I say Paladin, but I'm gonna lose it one day, so just bear with me, okay? They have nice DPS. They're doing great right now in the beta, and I hope that's not getting nerfed, because they're just a lot of fun, great DPS, great utility. I don't know what else they could possibly do to make that. It's just amazing right now. And on top of that, you can use your holy power to choose if you want to have defensive mitigation or if you want to heal yourself or a party member, okay? I know you're saying to yourself, yeah, but most tanks can heal, you know? Like, Vivify is also a heal. I know what you mean, but holy power, word of glory spending is an instant heal and feels amazing. It feels like you could carry the Mythic Plus Pug group as a paladin very easily. You do have to plan a little bit here and there to know which one you want to use for which situation. Unless you're playing very high-end Mythic Plus and Mythic rating though, I don't think that should be a problem, and it's one of the, in my opinion, easiest tanks to play because it's just so much fun and you can help the group very easily without, you don't need to know a lot, okay? You just heal people, that's it. The light is with you. And you do have a lot of bubbles that you can use, which is also always great. The only downside with Paladin is that it's not as tanky as other tanks, and to do actually super good damage, you do need to plan your cooldowns a little bit around it, where with the Vengeance Demon Hunter it just comes naturally because it's in the rotation. So that's the only thing. The overall mitigation of Protection Paladin is of course still better than Warriors, for example, right now, simply because holy power gaining and spending works much smoother than getting rage as a warrior. So that's good. That's you have that going as a Paladin, you know? Which brings us to the Blood DK. Blood DK, same as Vengeance Demon Hunter, still kind of feel like Battle for Azeroth. They did get a new rune forging system with 5 runes, I think, to pick from, so that's a nice variety and adds something new to it. They have Lichborn baseline, they have AMZ, which all their specs have baseline, super strong. On top of that, DKs have a battle res. You can never go wrong with a battle res. We need it even more in Shadowlands, so that's bombastic. Rune Tap is off the GCD. You bring lots of utility. You have a mass grip, you have a stun, you have a slow. Again, you have combat res, you have anti-magic zone. There is a reason why people say that Blood DK will be best for Mythic Plus. And also, if you want to carry the group, then Blood DK is the way to go. That's what most people say. That's what we all can agree on, I suppose. Blood DK and, in my opinion, Protection Paladin more so than Demon Hunter, because Demon Hunter is a selfish tank. Yes, you can heal and you survive, but that's it. You don't do much for your group, whereas as a DK, you have battle res at least. And Paladin, you can instant heal some party members, and that really can save the pull, I want to say. Blood DK, however, is the hardest tank of the game. And that's simply because you have to do resource management so much more than on other classes. It's almost crazy. Deathstrike requires you to have resources. And if you don't have the resource in the moment you get hit and you need to instantly heal up, then that's it. That's it, you're dead. So you really need to get a nice feel for it. And I understand why most people say that's the hardest class. I hard agree with it. What can I say? It's one of the most fun, but it is definitely one of the hardest, yes. Then that's leading us to Monk. Monks have been, I want to say, virtually unchanged. And similar to Blood DK and Protection Paladin, they didn't really depend on borrowed power to be really viable. On top of that, they also receive Iron Skin Brew as a spec passive. You know that button that you had to make sure you press all the time to have 100% uptime on stagger and whatnot? Gone. Simple thing now. It's there. You just take less damage. That's how it is. And yeah, you still have your brews and whatnot, and you still need to manage that. But it has become a little bit more simple. On top of that, you now have Spinning Crane Kick and Touch of Death. Also baseline, so that's nice for the Brewmaster Monk. And overall, even the self-heal is a little bit better because you did get Expel Harm now again, and pressing it feels a bit more rewarding than it did in Battle for Azeroth. As a Brewmaster Monk, however, you do need more heal than, say, a Vengeance Demon Hunter and a Blood DK, because yes, you take it less in your face, but you take it more overall, you know what I mean? Like, if you don't have a healer with you, eventually it's going to not be good for you, but the general gist of things is you're a very smooth tank. It's fun to go into dungeons with you because you're not going to die instantly, you know? And that feels good. That always felt nice. You do bring utility, you have an AoE stun, you have Ring of Peace if you talent into that. You have great mobility, you can talent into Chi Torpedo, you have Tiger's Lust, all that good stuff. I mean, you could even provide Tiger's Lust for your, let's say you have a DK in your group, and, you know, help that little fellow out a little bit. Give it some movement, speed, and it's nice, it's great. And you do bring 5% physical damage buff for melees in the group, and not sure how many melees you want in Mythic Plus, but could be nice for a raid, you know. So overall, the best tanks at the moment in the beta, in my opinion, are Vengeance Demon Hunter and Prot Paladin. If it comes to DPS output, those are just amazing DPS classes right now for tank specs. And then, of course, if you want the smoothest tank, then you want to go Brewmaster. I don't think that will change. I think that will remain the same even when Shadowlands finally hits the servers, because it's been like that forever, and that's mainly because that's just how Brewmasters work. They don't take as much damage. It's a smooth time, you know? But of course, if you like to take it to the face, excuse me, that's what he said? No. But if you like to feel like you're actually doing something with pressing your buttons, then probably Blood DK is a good choice if you're into learning curve. Otherwise, Vengeance Demon Hunter is the easiest because you simply only have 10 buttons. What can you do wrong? And Paladin is great for you just want to be your own tank and maybe help the other people around. You want to throw a heal here and there. You don't want to have to deal with so much self-healing though. You just want to be an all-arounder. Then Paladin is great. And unfortunately, Guardian Druid and Protection Warrior is more on the lower rows of things right now. They are still viable, you know. If you're not doing high-end content, all tanks are viable, but they're doing less good overall and are very reliant on healers as well right now, because without them, you would just fall over. So that is how it is. I wanna mention again though, if you're looking forward to a very button spammy class, don't write the warrior off just yet, because you know it could scale better with gear. I do strongly believe they do get buffs eventually. I mean, they have to, and eventually one day we will be back to smashing our boobs onto the keyboard, because there's just only so much we can do with our fingers before they get tired. And since it's so much APM, attacks per minute, button spammy class, we will eventually go back to that state. And I want you to know that that's what I strongly believe. Now, before we end things, I will give you my personal tier list, which is compiled into is it good and is it fun? And on top, I'm rating Brewmaster Monk because it's smooth and it's fun. And I always love the way it works. And one row below, I would put Vengeance and Blood DK. Not because they work similar, but just because those are very self-sufficient tanks. And I think as a tank, it feels good if you know that you can survive even if the heal died, for example. It feels good. One row below that, I put Protection Paladin because it's its own beast, okay? Protection Paladin is its own thing, and it's just so much fun and it's amazing. On top of that, you look great as a Protection Paladin, you know, with the shield and the light, and well, so does the warrior, Protection Warrior, but depends what you want from the gameplay feeling of it, of course. And then on the lowest row, I put Guardian Druid and the warrior, whereas Guardian Druid is still in a better spot than warrior, and again, you're a bear, it's just sexy, what can you do? But it is a little bit lower in the spectrum of how good tanks are, because you just don't have as much going for you compared to the other specs. And again, it only really applies to high-end mythic class, I want to say, and probably mythic rating, because anything below that, if you're a good player, you can make do with whatever. And that's just the gist of things. So with this list, I want you to hopefully understand what you're looking for in a tank. Not going into details, because depending on the spec you choose, that's when you want to look into it afterwards. But just know that if you want the easiest class and you have never tanked before, yes, go Vengeance Demon Hunter or Brewmaster Monk. And if you just want to have a lot of control and you do like the theme of the undead and this, I want to say Scourge, but you know, just go I was almost going to say undead. I gotta go undead, that's it. I meant Blood DK. Just do that. And the rest is really, if you feel like it, then you play it. That's what you have to go for, because the moment you will love a class and a spec, that's the moment you will become good with it. Because if you don't have fun with the class, if you don't log in and you see the screen and you see your character and you feel like, oh yes, that's what I want to play with. If that's not the feeling you have, then it doesn't matter how much min-maxing you want to do, you will not play the game for long, because that in the end it comes down to you wanting to play it. And it needs to be something that you enjoy. So either way, I'm probably going to start with my Demon Hunter, because that's just how it is. It's just me. But I strongly believe that the second character I want to level is a monk. Simply because, let's face it, it's time for a hybrid. But yeah, that's it, guys. Again, I love having you here. This was an unscripted video where I'm mainly just rambling and saying things. So I'm sorry for the accent. I'm sorry if I said some stuff that was not even understandable, possibly. And maybe I talk too fast. That's also very likely. But if you made it up to this point, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Maybe follow me on Twitch. Maybe leave a subscribe here or a follow, however they call it nowadays. And I would love to read your comments, and maybe you can tell me what you're planning on maining in Shadowlands and what tank speaks to you and why. You know, why? Side note, again, why can we not have male-wearing tank classes? Why? Alright guys, that's it for me. I hope you will have a wonderful rest of your day, take care, especially in these times. Feel super squeezed from me to you, and I see you in the comments and read you next time.